It's always been my goal to use my career, my natural talents, and my network to make a difference for those young folks coming behind me, to leave the door open to opportunities that it took me over 20 years to walk into. I believe it's our job as professionals and individuals, and most importantly, as leaders, to leave a legacy behind that enriches the communities that we serve, not just the businesses that employ us. Because you see, we couldn't be incredible leaders without community. Good, bad, or in between, our experiences have shaped our outcomes, our perspectives, and determination are all byproducts of our early experiences with and around others. At Trillionaires Foundation, our job is to create impact that opens up doors for disadvantaged youth, create confidence in our young scholars and aspiring change makers, and make exceptional the norm for future generations. Throughout this series, I have spoken with leaders and professionals from various career paths, industries, and walks of life who value impact and investment in not just professional advancement. One of the things I've noticed is that although there are many incredible organizations and individuals working to create impact, there are still common themes that best describe what's necessary to create change for our disadvantaged youth and our communities in Colorado and across the nation. Vision, strategy, access, legislation, results. We've covered all but one. And in this final episode of the Trail Collective series, we're exploring results. To get the insight on what works like the Trillionaires Foundation can improve on in our efforts to report measurable impact, I sat down with the CEO of Rose Community Foundation. For those who don't know, why don't you tell us what you do professionally and what excites you about your work?
Absolutely. I have the honor of serving as the president and CEO of Rose Community Foundation, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary in 2025. We have a history that is so important to us. We love to tell our origin story. Back in the 1940s, Jewish doctors were coming back to Denver from World War II, and they couldn't get hospital privileges because of anti-Semitism and discrimination. So the Jewish community came together and pooled resources and built General Rose Memorial Hospital. And not only did it employ Jewish doctors, but the first Black doctor to have hospital privileges in Denver was at Rose. And it was known for serving the entire community in all of its diversity with excellence and care. So fast forward to the mid-90s, and standalone nonprofit hospitals were being purchased by large for-profit hospital corporations. And so in this case, HCA Health One came in and purchased what we know as Rose Medical Center today. The proceeds from that sale are what created the foundation. So we're what's known as a hospital conversion foundation. There's lots of them in Colorado and throughout the country, but we're one of the few that kept a piece of the name.
And so you're a highly decorated, what we call boss babes.
Love that.
40 under 40 award winner.
A long time ago, sadly.
But no, it never goes away. Thought leader, top 25 most powerful women, and more. It's truly inspiring. What has your guiding light been in your career, and what has changed in recent years?
I love giving back to the community. I love helping to build the kind of community that we all aspire to have for ourselves, for our children, for future generations. And I feel like that's been a through line for me throughout my career. What I think has changed in more recent years is being a mother, and particularly a mother to a daughter. And, you know, several years ago, Michelle Obama came to Denver and spoke at what was then Pepsi Center. And I will never forget, she talked about that girls today are so afraid to fail that they quite often don't try new things. And she really encouraged everyone in the audience to fail loudly and fail forward and to share those stories so that young women today are more comfortable taking risks, even when success isn't guaranteed.
Success isn't always measured in dollars and cents. It's also measured in impact. And as I spoke with Lindy, I began to see how that looks from a different perspective. And then how was that transition from that small town girl in college to now boss babe? And then as a woman, what stands out the most for you when you look back?
You know, when you live in a small town or you go to a small school, you get to do everything, right? You can be in the band and a cheerleader and play sports and do this club. And so I think whether it was in college or in my career, I have sought opportunities to really wear lots of different hats and have different experiences. That variety and the challenge of constantly learning new things or building new relationships and juggling is something that I don't know how to do it any other way, quite frankly. And so that has continued with me. Ironically, you know, I've really spent all of my time since leaving the small town in urban areas, whether that was in Northern California in the Bay Area, whether that was in Chicago, whether that was in Washington, D.C., whether that was in Austin, Texas, or for the past 23 years here in Denver. I love urban places, and I feel very deeply about a sense of place. And I think some of that comes from the small town I grew up in. That sense of place was really important.
So you've been personally responsible for injecting tens of millions of dollars into the Denver community. That sounds amazing, but I'm sure there was some fear too. And then, you know, could you take me back to that moment when you finally first realized, I think I'm good at this?
You know, I am fortunate at Rose Community Foundation to work with an incredible team and be part of this legacy, right? We all come into our roles for a moment in time, and we hope to leave things better than we found them and pass the baton to someone else eventually. And so I credit those at Rose Community Foundation who came before me and those who are working there with me now, whether on the staff or on our board or on our committees. It's really philanthropy. The stress comes from, you know, the dollars are finite. And so you want to spend them, you want to invest them in the most optimal way because there's opportunity cost, right? To invest over here might mean you can't invest over here. And so, you know, there's always a sense of pressure of, are we investing in the best place that's going to have the most impact? But you never really have a way of knowing for sure. And you've got to take some risks and you've got to try. And so I find that working with a fantastic team that is diverse and embedded in the community and listening to community. When I came to the foundation, I said it's really important that we become a learning organization rather than a knowing organization. We want to know enough to ask the right questions, but not so much that we don't listen to the answers. And I think by really respecting the expertise that is in community and really seeking out community-informed solutions and opportunities, it not only mitigates the risk that we're investing in the wrong bets, but it increases the chance that those investments and those organizations are going to really have a meaningful impact in the community.
Yes, indeed. At Trillionaires Foundation, we are all about mitigating risk and maximizing opportunities. And the best way to do that is to stay close to the work, close to those serving in alignment with our values so that our efforts and funds raised are strategically invested for maximum impact.
I started out as a journalist. And, I wanted to do that because I felt it was so important to shine a bright light on injustice. And I felt that information is power, and making sure that we have an informed citizenry is key to having a healthy democracy. What I've learned and what I have brought with me to this day is the importance of communications and storytelling. To be able to share a vision and inspire other people to partner with you in executing that vision, to use storytelling to amplify the impact of our grantees, to amplify the impact of our donor-advised fund holders, to really educate the community about key issues. So that storytelling has continued with me throughout my career, and certainly at Rose Community Foundation. And I learned a lot about how systems and funding influence what happens in our country, in our states, in our cities, in our communities. Government budgets are actually moral documents, right? Because you fund where your values are. And so, I learned a lot about how government can help and how government can hurt. And those lessons I've carried with me because, philanthropy partners quite often with government. And, we actually at Rose Community Foundation do a fair amount of policy and advocacy work. Because, a lot of foundations say, I'm interested in systemic change. Well, you can't have systemic change unless you engage in policy and advocacy. Whether that's changing systems to make them more open and equitable and transparent and effective, or whether that's unlocking public dollars for key issues. And so my government experience continues to be relevant to what we do at Rose Community Foundation.
Realizing that funding is a moral and value-based decision. Trailers Foundation has created a model called the Trail Collective. That's somewhat different than what many foundations, and I believe, is the foundation for modern philanthropy. The Trail Collective is not a giving circle, an endowment, a donor advised fund, or just a social club. It's a capital strategy for active campaign deployment, legacy building initiatives to foster a network of high impact change makers. So how do you set the goals for philanthropic endeavors? And what data points stand out to you as you and your team decide where capital is best invested in the community?
Data is important in identifying the problems, where they are, what they are, in measuring progress, and ultimately in evaluating the effectiveness of a strategy. And so we start out looking at kind of macro level, regional data. Where are the disparities? We know that in recent decades, Colorado and the Denver metro area has experienced tremendous prosperity and growth. But we also know, and the data shows it, that prosperity hasn't been equitably experienced by all communities. And we think that equitable access to opportunity is critical to the sustainability of our region. And so, we listen to the data. We look at what are the stories it's telling us. Whether it's achievement gaps in the public schools, whether it's disparities in rates of home ownership by race, whether it's health disparities, by gender or race or age or geography. And so we want to target our investments at where the disparities are greatest in our region. And we look for opportunities where the community that's been impacted has really been part of creating the solution that is seeking funding from us.
Okay.
And we look not only within the organizations, who's at the table, but who are they partnering with in the community and other nonprofits, because no organization can do any of these things alone. Collaboration is really key. And so those are some of the metrics that we're looking for. Obviously track records of success give a funder more confidence.
Right.
But sometimes ideas are new and ideas are risky, but maybe they're compelling enough and the need is great enough that you're willing to try.
Yes, indeed. We've had someone talk about how the base of like venture capitalists, it's the strength of the owner, sometimes the visionary. And you're right, there are some new things that people have to take a risk on. As you mentioned earlier, philanthropy is a harder space to just measure specifically to what you're investing and funding in, but you just got to take those risks.
Absolutely.
So what are 3 indicators that you use to identify partners of orgs to work with and in order to reach those desired impacts that you can target?
Sure. Well, we like to see organizations that have a firm grasp of a problem or an opportunity and what the factors are they think, the levers for change. We are not interested in solutions in search of a problem. So there's a difference. As I said, we're looking for community-informed solutions, organizations that have engaged community, that community is represented in their leadership, on their staffs, on their board, and that they have a lot of partnerships. Those are key. Financial health matters. It absolutely matters. But sometimes organizations are relatively new and they don't have a huge track record, or, there's blips that are explainable. But financial health certainly matters. And, we are looking for organizations where there's values alignment. So organizations that aren't causing harm or espousing hate towards any community. We want people who are walking the talk of shared values with us.
Yes. As an organization founded in 2022, we've created impact for communities, documented over results, generated over 500,000 K through our programs and partnerships, and we've demonstrated maximum transparency along the way. Our programs, events, and outward-facing initiatives are all designed around our modern philanthropy approach and capital strategy for the Trail Collective. This is only the beginning, and as we end the series, our hope is that you'll join the Trail Collective as we create memorable impact, report on our success and our failure, and leave a blueprint for modern philanthropy for those serving communities in Colorado and across the nation. Stay tuned for more news from the Trailionaires Foundation, and for all you boss babes and impact-driven leaders joining the Trail Collective, and let's advance policy, impact communities, and build legacy together.